Hi everyone, welcome. I'm just going to start arriving here together. My name's Jeremy, and I'll give everybody a few minutes just to arrive. I'm going to be doing a little bit of movement tonight, a little bit of breath. I'm going to be learning a little bit about our nervous systems. And so if you're arriving, just know that you can come as you are. You're not going to need to try to relax or do anything special tonight. We're not even going to do any sort of meditation per se, or it's really just going to take some time to notice together, take some time to notice ourselves, notice how we're arriving right now in our day, whether it's at the end of it, whether we're towards the beginning or in the middle somewhere, and then also where we're coming from. So something that we just left, whether it's work, maybe a conversation, and just take a moment just to see, how am I arriving? And what am I noticing right now? And just see if you can let something surface. Maybe there's something there, maybe not. We're going to be doing a few small experiments tonight. Everything is inside of our body, so we'll be using some things that we have built in. I've been doing a role in surgery for about 12 years, monitoring the nervous system while the surgeon is working on the brain or the spine. And we're giving the surgeon information about what exactly is happening with all the different electrical signals coming off of the body at any one time. And so these are traveling all around. They're traveling around once you go to sleep, so we can measure them in computer and in electricity, and we hook up some monitors. But also, while we're moving through our day, all of these same signals are still active. And so these are signals that are happening inside of our body in real time, inside of our nerves, inside of our hands, inside of our thoughts. And so as we're moving through our day, and what we see in surgery is that the nervous system is under constant motion. And so even if we're sitting still, something at some level has some movement to it. And so what we're going to do tonight is see if we can start to settle ourselves in, arriving exactly how we are, and come into some of these doorways, some of these access points inside of our nervous system that is there giving us maybe signals that we're just not noticing. Because there's a lot going on. So we're always carrying a lot through our day. We're caring for others, we're caring for ourselves. Technology, we have constant notifications coming in on our devices, coming in on our wrists sometimes. And so we may not even be aware from the minute that we get up, that we open our eyes, all the different signals that we're getting from inside of our bodies, but also from the environment that we're in. And then also what we're putting into our bodies. And so we're going to kind of go through some different stages of experimenting with ourselves, and we're just going to see. So we're not going to, the goal is, there's not really any goal at all other than to bring in a moment just to see, just to check in and see if there's a difference. And the difference will be sometimes in our hands, sometimes we'll see it in our shoulders, sometimes we'll see it in our jaw. And so our body is carrying around all these different signals in these different areas. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And as we're getting settled in here, I'm going to remind everyone, it's just come as you are. If you need to drop out, drop out. And if you're standing, feel free to stand. If you're sitting, feel free to sit, however is natural, comfortable, however you're settling in currently. And you might just start to settle in and steady yourself underneath however you are. So whether that's your feet on the floor, maybe giving some gentle pressure, maybe if you're seated, maybe giving a little gentle pressure to the cushion or seat underneath you. Really just sensing in what's already supporting me here in this moment. The floor, supported by whatever I'm underneath me. And so just take that in for just a moment, and nothing to change. So just notice how you already are, and let that just be some information for our nervous systems. And so at the very beginning of surgery, what we like to do is we set this baseline of all the nervous system information, whatever it is. And so it could be numbness, it could be a pain signal, it could be weakness. And we can see all these things inside the nervous system. And so we can also sense into it in our bodies. And sometimes when we're moving through our day, some signals are louder than others. And some signals also may go with each other. So they may be complementary, or you may see the tension in your shoulders or your jaw might also have a moment with a sticky thought, or maybe a tense moment in a planning situation. And so just noticing how you're arriving. And if you'd like, if you want to participate, feel free to ask any questions along the way. Some of it will be with your eyes closed or open. We're going to be making a couple of small choices. And through these small choices, we're making them anyway through the day, constantly. And our brain relies on this steady information and this clear input to be able to reliably move through the world safely. And really, that's kind of the brain's main job that we're looking at from neuroscience. Is it's a prediction. We're out there predicting and scanning the environment, putting elements of the environment in, taking signals in from the body, and putting together an image that is creating what you're experiencing, however you're experiencing it. And a lot of times you may be able to subtly sense it through these layers. And so what are these layers? And so as you're sitting wherever you are, you might start to take in this first layer, and that's really the environment that you're in. And so however you are, you might just start to take in the light, maybe the amount of light, maybe if it's natural light coming in from the outside, or if it's light coming in from a lamp. You might just sense a color to the light, a warmth, maybe a temperature. And as you're taking in the room, you might notice 3 colors. And they're your colors, and there's no right answers. Maybe if you could just identify 3 on one object, many objects. Maybe there's more than 3 coming through. Maybe to identify 2 shapes that you see. This could be on a new object, or it could be on one that you've already seen a color of. And start to take in maybe some sounds in your room or your space. Maybe faraway sounds. It could be near sounds. It could be sounds in our body. And now start to sense yourself. Maybe the same support. Maybe you sense into your feet or your hands. Just choose an easy spot and just stay there for a moment. And we're still arriving. And a lot of times we're carrying what we were just doing before into the situation. And just by being here, you've intentionally chosen to set some time aside to pause and to notice. And so this is just the first step in that noticing. It's what's happening in the environment I'm in. What can I sense here? And can I notice it long enough that I can see where it's landing in my body? So let's take a couple of small choices now, and let's move into our hands. And so you can let your hands, and you can rest them naturally on your lap, down to your sides, however you'd like. There's no right answer here. But what we're going to do is you might try a couple things here. You might try to see how you've rested them naturally down already. Just check to see, did my palms rest naturally down? Or did they rest naturally up? There's no right answer, but there is a difference. And not everyone goes to the same position. So it's always interesting just to see, what did I go to automatically? Was there some sort of automatic process that's happened that I didn't even think about? And then just notice, what do I feel here? If my palms are up, can I feel the temperature? Can I feel the air? If you want to rub your hands together, your fingers together even, you might try to sense that friction. And you might try to sense in what texture's here. And if your palms are down, you might sense into whatever they're touching. Maybe they're touching your pants or your shorts and the clothing. Maybe you can start to sense into the cloth and what texture's there. And just sense for a second. And if you'd like, switch positions from whatever you have now and try the other way. And just notice. And so our hands, we monitor them during brain and spine surgery because they take up a lot of room in the brain. They're about a third of this area called the sensory cortex, which is what is responsible for all of our feeling. And so we can use our hands as a tool, knowing that they have a lot of nerve information coming to our brains all the time, and that our brain is constantly sending nerve information down as a quick check-in, not to necessarily see what's happening overall with our state, but maybe sensing, what can I notice at my hands that might be a small piece of information that would clue in maybe something else in the system, maybe some tension in the shoulders, or a tense thought, or feeling distracted or fatigued. Maybe these things are moving together. We can sense them in one of these highly sensitive areas that happen to be our hands. And so another small choice that we can make, while your hands are resting naturally where you let them, is with our eyes. And so you've been taking in the environment, and our eyes taking in information all the time, just like our hands. We're taking in this nervous system information from the environment. It's creating this picture. It's processing for us, keeping us safe, sending signals to other areas of our body that may alert based on what it sees. And so it's constantly carrying these signals in. Even while we're sleeping, our eyes are actually moving. And so what we can do is we can take that knowledge, we can say, okay, what do I have that I can sense in around my eyes? Can I sense what my eyes feel like to the sides and towards the top around my eyebrows? If you'd like, you can even take your fingertips and you can gently rest them, maybe even close to your eyes, towards the sides, on your eyebrows, touching your eyelid, so gently, and just see, what's here? Is there movement? Is there tension? You're just noticing. You see, the eyes happen to be some of the quickest muscles in the body. And so they're really moving more than we know. They're moving in the time of milliseconds, more than we can sense or think about. But we might be able to sense it in our fingertips if we're subtle enough. And just see. Maybe you don't sense anything there. Maybe they're not tense. But a lot of times what happens is that we're carrying this tension around through the day, and we could be carrying it in from our environment. And so maybe through our eyes, an example is that it's bright out. And so if it's bright outside and we're squinting, then we're taking that into our system. And so any tension that we might have that we may say is headache related, maybe it's coming from the environment. But also too, I like to correlate what's happening in the environment might also be impacting my experience. And how is it impacting my experience? Well, it could be impacting my experience in a couple of ways. One of them is through my eyes. And so what we can do with our eyes is we can use our eyelids, and we can use as an amount in the moment to choose the amount of light to come in, choose the amount of input that we're going to give the brain in this moment. And so by automatically giving a half daze, going half down with your eyelids, you're automatically giving a fuzzier picture, less information. And sometimes less information might let another signal subtly be noticed that wouldn't have otherwise. And so if you feel safe enough to close your eyes in the moment, closing our eyes can send a signal of safety into the nervous system that lets us know we're in an environment that it's safe enough to close our eyes. And even having them half down sends a subtler signal that lets us know, hey, nervous system, you may not have to be on alert right now. It might be safe enough just to sit here for a moment and not scan. And so we can make those small choices with our eyes. And it starts with noticing what's already here. What is the signal? What is the signal saying as far as ease right now or effort? Am I straining? Am I resistant? And so make that small choice with your eyes, all the way down, half down, and add that to your hands so our hands are resting naturally. You might check in there, see what the texture is now. See if the temperature's there. Maybe you'd like to switch positions with your hands, palms up or down, just to see. And one of the next areas that we go into that's always with us while we're sleeping, while patients are doing surgery, is our breath. And so our breath is already arriving. We've been together for about 20 minutes, and you've been breathing the whole time with no special technique. So let it just keep arriving as it is. And you might just notice here, what can I sense about my breath as far as quality? You see, I see a lot of people, but sometimes they're not breathing necessarily deep. It's a shallow breath that they have, which is okay. But what we know about stimulating certain nerves with our breath is that it doesn't even take a deep breath to signal the nervous system sometimes. And our nervous system is going in these states of alertness, ease, effort. And these systems are working together, and they're using information layered for you to be able to make choices in your environment and in your moment. And so maybe you've drifted and you're planning, or maybe you're remembering something that's already happened, or something that you forgot keeps coming back. And that's okay. That's part of the movement. The returning is part of the noticing. And so as you're noticing your breath, you might notice where you see it happening in your body. Can I sense it where it's coming in? Is it coming in through my nose? Gentle? Can I sense it into my ribs? And so it's easy. We can use our hands if you like. So wherever they're at, you might take one hand and you might place it right below your sternum. So right at the top of your belly, right below where you feel a little softness. And just find it. And let your breath keep coming in as it is. And know that it's moving and can move without your technique or effort. And if we allow it to come and go, we might barely start to sense in, where can I feel it? Can I feel it here, in my front, in my hand? And if you'd like, you might take your other hand, you might reach it around, you might find your mid back, and you might touch it right here in the middle. And here's your spine, one hand, your diaphragm in the front, spine in the back, both connected to nerves, both sending signals. And we also have our hands involved. And so we know here we're involving our hands that take up a lot of space in our brain. How are my hands right now? Is there ease there? Can I feel my breath arriving? Just notice. And you might continue breathing there for a few rounds and just see what's here. And if you've drifted into thinking, just return. We're into our breath. Come back to your hands. Check in on your eyes. By noticing these areas that carry a lot of nervous system information, many times they're giving subtle signals that are coming from other layers. A layer of the environment coming in through our senses. A layer of how we've slept the night before. A layer of planning, of responsibility for something that we love, and caring for others. This is all a healthy brain doing its thing. And it provides us an opportunity to return when we notice that we've gone, drifted. And we can return to spaces where information is known because we can sense it. We can sense what's happening inside of our breath. And we can sense if it has ease there or if there's effort. And we can just notice which is happening. And whichever's happening, maybe there's 2% more ease available. Maybe there's 2% more space in your ribs when they expand. Maybe there's 2% longer exhale. And so in these gentle 360-degree breaths, we're stimulating nerves, the vagus nerve, stimulating nerves in our sinuses when we breathe through our nose, cranial nerves, bringing oxygen into our blood, sending signals of vitality into our system. And we're doing it together here as a group, and just sensing what's here. And let the movement happen. Let the thinking happen. And don't attach yourself to it. Come back to your breath. Come back to your hands. And come back to your eyes. And we're going to stay here for just a few more breaths, just to really settle in. We're arriving. We may have arrived. And one of the things we're exploring together is choice itself, and how these choices can change our experience. And they're not changing the experience because there's a right or a wrong answer. The choices remind our nervous system that there are options available. And sometimes they're so subtle we can't notice. But sometimes even the smallest option is enough. It might be enough to unstick us. It might be enough to notice that the movement's happening on its own. The movement's happening in my breath. Movement in my hands and my eyes. Another place we have movement often, and we have static sometimes, is in our jaws. Our jaws are constantly working for us. Our jaws are a large muscle, carry a lot of nervous system information right to the brain. And a lot of times we're tense here even while we're sleeping. And I see it in patients when they're asleep and during anesthesia. The jaw is still tense. And so these things don't necessarily change at any time during the day. And what I know from working with the nervous system for long enough is that everybody's nervous system is completely their own. And it's hugely dependent on the day, and yourself, the environment, maybe your sleep, things you have going on as far as relationships. It's all providing information. And, in the operating room during surgery, we're constantly paying attention for information. And we're looking for these tiny changes. Signals that are just barely changing in milliseconds, letting us know, hey, this might be something to get curious about. And even the smallest signal might be able to give us a clue into a larger event. Some sort of shifting of the time for a signal to arrive might be enough information for us to get curious and just see, what's here? You might even try, if you like, with one hand, you might reach up and gently touch your throat and just, You might even try a curious hum. By giving a hum, it's activating that same nerve that we did with our breath, the vagus nerve. And so it's another place we can notice. It's not magic that we see some people humming to soothe themselves, or we hum to babies. These are signals that we know. The humans have it innately in them, and other creatures, through this voice, through us sharing a voice together, hearing each other's voices. But the simplest way that we might stimulate our own is just by humming. We don't have to do it often, but if you notice it, you might do it and see what you notice about what's happening. It may send a signal of safety. And again, these small signals, these small inputs, it's not going to fix your nervous system. We're not creating goals here. We're more doing some exploration, seeing where a threshold is, maybe noticing a signal that we missed. And it's always about the coming back. When we drift, when we get stuck in a certain part of our body, thinking about pain, thinking about immobility, thinking about what's going on for somebody that we love and worry. And we carry all those signals with us all through the day. And so we're not able to notice everything, but we may be able to start to key in on some subtle signals that maybe we didn't see or notice before. And it might be something as simple as, I notice my hands are gripped before I go into the house. I notice my hands are gripped before I go in for work or before I talk to someone on the phone. I realize my jaw is locked and tight and tense when I'm sitting in traffic. And the thing is, once you start noticing it, that's the moment where the signal might be able to shift into something different experience-wise. Because what I've noticed is over time, we can build in, through this law that neuroscience has, where things that wire together fire together. And so what that means is neurons, so the nerve cells, they've actually shown now that whatever it is that we're thinking about, that we're moving in our bodies, how we're breathing, our sleep, all these things happen to wire together over time, creating stronger connections. And so what happens when there's a stronger connection is that maybe that signal surfaces sooner. And so maybe over time, my hands are still gripped, my jaw's still tight, my eyes are still moving, but I can notice it. And I might be able to bring just to see if there's any more ease available in that area. Maybe there's not. Maybe it's exactly how it's going to be. Noticing that in itself gives you more information. That's what we do in surgery. We check in to see where the nervous system is, not to see whether it's good or bad. It's about noticing what's happening in the time. What's happening important enough that we need to key in on this information, not to make the right choice, but to make the choice of ease and effort, to make a balanced choice. And you've already made a number of these small choices since we've been together tonight. You made a number of small choices about your hands. You made a number of small choices about your eyes. You made a number of small choices whether you wanted to return or drift away into your thinking. And there's no right answers. Anything's cool. All is fine. All is welcome. It's about the practice. You see, what we do in medicine a lot of times is we practice a lot. Practice the same skill a lot. Practice doing the same type of skill a lot. Hopefully we get to practice with the same people, in the same environment, in the same room, with the same tools, with our hands. And so why are we doing this? I've come to know that through repetition, we're putting those pieces of information into our nervous system so that during the moment when it is stressful and somebody is under anesthesia and needs care, it's not a stressful situation because we have everything we need as far as information, and we have presence. We have communication with each other. We have eye contact. We can sense into each other's moods. And we can sense into each other. What am I sensing in, say, somebody else that I know? Somebody else's hands. Somebody else's jaw. You might bring somebody that you love to mind. Somebody close. You might share your breath with them. And you might share your hands and check in and see how their hands are. And these are experience points that we have. Small choices, maybe one moment of noticing, and then the moment to get curious. What's here? And we can start to change the way we ask questions about ourselves. Not necessarily where am I feeling pain, or how do I stop feeling this pain? How can I move to avert this pain? Maybe we become curious. What's the texture of it? Is it itchy? Is it electric and tingly? Is it a dull ache? You might sense in somewhere, and you might try to see and ask yourself, did I go somewhere automatic in my body when I think about pain? Is there somewhere I'm automatically going that I always go? And we're just noticing. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. And if there is, you might get a little curious. Does that pain move if I sit with it? Can I find my breath there? 360 degrees? Gentle? Can I think about the pain in the area and check in with my hands and see if there's any ease? Can I think about the pain and feel or sense my jaw or my eyes? And just notice. And if you've drifted, go ahead and return. And we're going to stay here for just a few breaths. But I'd like to give you the opportunity to stay with something, to sense in and notice. Small choice. Experiment. Notice again. And so you have some options. You can try it with your hands, palms up, palms down. You could try it with your eyes. You could see if there's any more space available around your eyes. And you might be coming into some other part of your body, maybe your feet, maybe your back. Wherever you come, see if you can notice if it's moving or if it's still. See if you can notice if you want to grab on to a feeling or a thought, or if it can move away without effort. And we know that our hands and our eyes and our breath, they're all layered here. They're all part of this system creating our experience together. And another layer that extends beyond that is all of us here together. More than 60 of us now, growing as the 45 minutes goes on. And we're noticing something beautiful and ordinary that's in our bodies. These things that we have as far as our hands and our voices, our ears, they're all taking in the information for us to create an experience that helps us navigate through our days, through our relationships, through our sleepless nights, through our immobility, through our resilience and recovery. And we have to practice having these abilities. And we can't take them for granted. Not everyone does have the ability to feel. Not everyone does have the ability to move. And so making the choice to move, even just a little, is a signal. And we don't have to decide that we're going to do it all, or what we're going to do is good or bad. The practice is just simply noticing what's already here. Can I sense into my body? Can I know that my body is part of the environment, taking in signals? And then when I start to notice the signals, can I use that information in a way that might help me maybe create more ease? Maybe give a signal that more effort might be needed in an area to create a change. And just noticing is the first step. And so go ahead and start to come back into yourself here. Come back into the room. And start opening your eyes if you had them closed. Bringing a little movement. Gentle twist to the side. Maybe a gentle twist to the other side. Maybe a bend backwards. Gentle. And a forward. Gentle. Maybe a slight bend towards one side. And if you like, bend towards the other. And then you just might notice, how's my breath? How are my hands? How are my eyes? And thank you for spending this time with me. I'm going to be here next Wednesday around the same time, 7 p.m. We have a few courses on Insight Timer. We have a few audio courses along with some videos. There's also some music, some orchestral symphony music to check out. Feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat. I'm going to stick around for just a few minutes, answer some nervous system questions if anybody has any, and take super care until next time. Thank you, everyone.